to the fact that when somebody tells you that no, meaning or purpose is subjective to the person, you know, like saying like your purpose is not the same purpose as mine. Your end goal in life is different than mine. Like, how would you go about responding to those individuals who have that type of worldview or who perceive life in such a way?
I believe everyone, no matter who we all desire one common trait, which is success in life. We all want to succeed. The difference is you have a different interpretation of what success is than me. For some, it's having the house, the wife, the kids, the dog. You know what I'm saying?
The white picket fence, right? That white picket fence.
To others, it's I don't need the money. I don't need, I just value relationships. But at the end goal, everyone is, I want to have a fruitful life. I want to have the most success in this life. So we all share a common trait of wanting to be successful. The only difference is I believe that the success is found in Jesus Christ in everlasting life. And you might say, no, the success is in following these women or in following, etc.
Yeah.
Right? So I believe that even the person that says is living with no purpose has a purpose and he's seeking after it.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely will get into that question, going a little bit more into the fact of whether or not there is such thing as living without purpose. So yeah, like remember, like today's topic, guys, we really want to hit on this point of purpose because I feel like it involves everybody, no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, like I mentioned, no matter what you've been through. Everybody in some sense or another has this, I guess, desire or this intent to knowing whether or not they have a purpose in this life. Right. My second question for you, brother, is like, what do you believe are some misconceptions or misunderstandings about purpose? Like, what do you think are some things that people really, I guess, misconstrued or give the wrong, I guess, what is the word? It's the wrong definition of purpose, and because it's the wrong definition of purpose, and when their life doesn't line up with that definition of purpose, people end up thinking that they don't have any purpose. What do you think are some of the misunderstandings or misconceptions about it?
I think, for one, it's that your personal attributes, your personal talents and goals are not more important than the ultimate purpose. And some of us, we think that what we're good at is our purpose, and we seek those things. And sometimes just because you're good at it doesn't mean you're meant to prioritize that as number one in your life. Like for example, I'm not going to say I'm amazing at basketball or nothing like that, but it's something that, like for some, we chase after our desires, things that we're interested in. And for me, that's just one of my passions. Making music is one of the big ones. And then it's also just playing basketball just because it's a good way to exercise and stay in shape, right? So, if I just went off of every single passion and desire, then, I might be chasing after the wind because, as you can see, God structured me 5'9" 3/4. I'm not 6'7" or nothing like that. So if I were to say, basketball, you know what I mean? There's some things that we have limitations for that there will be a threshold of how far I can excel at something.
And that you mentioned that, man, that really does give me like some insight that the fact that one of the most common misconceptions that a lot of people might not be conscious about is that they have a tendency to associate it with a desire, and that's only because like the fact that you have a strong desire for a particular thing doesn't mean that the pursuit of that desire is your end purpose in life. Like only because I desire to like, let's say for instance, to counsel people or have have the desire to become a successful business owner, whatever it may look like you said, like it's weird how we sometimes tend to incorporate purpose with success. Right. If I feel that my life has been successful, then it means that my life has been purposeful. And like the whole chasing of desire thing, man, I feel like a lot of people, when that desire has a tendency to fade or cease, is when people then start to question whether or not they actually have a purpose or whether or not that was their purpose in life. So I really love the fact that you hit on that, Yeah. And another thing also that you mentioned that I got from you were saying is the fact that making use of your talents is not purpose.
And also not the main priority of your purpose, That's just one aspect of something you could use as a tool to fulfill that purpose.
And I feel like definitely as we're targeting these things, do you believe that purpose, like I think you mentioned when you're giving your definition, is like it's bigger than you.
Yes.
Sort of thing. Like, so because purpose is bigger than you, it has to derive from somewhere else, something else. In this case, that has to attribute that to you, because I feel like when we try to associate or when we try to, I guess, what is the word? Man, I'm losing the words here. What's it called? When we try to basically instill in ourselves our own thought out purpose, I feel like when we're not meeting that, or when circumstances or when individuals even challenge that purpose, that can definitely lead somebody astray.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think, there's some desires that, there's some talents that we might have that, again, all your things that you're good at are tools.
Yeah.
They're not what define you. They're things that you use, right? So, like, for example, I do music, and does that mean that I should find purpose in doing music if I'm good at it or whatever? No, because the moment you're not doing music, you're going to feel purposeless. And my life is not just made for just music.
Yeah.
So there's some things that are like you never turn it off, and then there's some things that, like you're not going to be on it 24/7. It's just for the moment that is necessary to use that tool to accomplish that purpose.
Wow. Yeah, and you're right. Like the fact that our talents, these desires, these particular, I guess, attributes and capacities that we have are nothing but instruments,
Yes.
to take us to an end purpose. And it's crazy because, it definitely does bring me back to a verse in scripture, and the fact that, we're vessels. God says that we're vessels for his glory, sort of thing. And so we're nothing but an instrument, and within this instrument there's various things like sounds, frequencies in which this instrument can do. And I guess that's a good way to look at the fact that talents and desires are a means to how to live out your actual purpose. They aren't the source of your purpose.
Yes, the means to an end.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love that. What do you think are some of the bases of purpose or meaning? Like, what defines, or what would you say is the foundation of purpose? What does one have to say, like, have present in order for them to say, I have purpose, or in order for the purpose to really come to a fulfillment?
All right, say that again. I'm sorry. That's a very deep question. I gotta
think about that. What do you think are the bases of purpose?
The bases.
Yeah, the foundation, right? So you gotta lay your purpose on a foundation, and we said that the foundation of a purpose is not desires, is not talent, is not people. Then what would you say you lay your basis of purpose on?
Okay, so, I mean, personally, from examining the scriptures, we see that we're made in the image of God. And he created us not because he was lonely, because he's self-sufficient. He doesn't need us. He's fully, good just the way he was.
Yeah.
But he decided to make us and, use us for a purpose. And the purpose that he decided to make us is the ultimate purpose would be for us to glorify God. Now, there's different ways we can glorify God. On the individual side, it would be worshiping him, spend some time one-on-one with God, prayer, fasting, reading the word, actual music, worship, whatever it is. But there's the one-on-one type of giving God the glory, and then there's the take to the whole world and preach the gospel type of glory. So for someone that's looking for purpose, whatever talent, whatever skill, whatever desire, if it doesn't align with giving God the glory, then that's not your purpose. You got to make sure to know the ultimate purpose so that you can find your personal purpose. If your personal purpose does not match the ultimate purpose, then you're going down the wrong road.
I see.
The ultimate purpose is for God to get the glory. So how are we going to give God the glory? There's some key fundamentals that we're supposed to do, which is what Matthew 28, 26, or the Great Commission, Jesus, as soon as he resurrected, that was the first thing he told his believers was to go and make disciples of all nations. So, I remember seeing this little quote on social media. It said, God says to preach to the whole world. If you feel like the whole world is overwhelming, then preach to your country. If you can't do that, then preach to your city. If you can't do that, then preach to your neighborhood. And if you can't start there, then start in your own home. And if that still seems difficult, then start with yourself.
Wow.
So there's always like a baby step to start with. Like if you already feel like you've like, got your part down, like I'm good with me myself. Well, then there's another one. Now you can go preach in your home. Now you can go preach to your city. You know, like there's always a grander scheme of the first commandment that he gave us as soon as he resurrected.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. And you know, to add to that, like the fact that a basis of purpose is extremely important, because I say like I always use the example of abstract objects such as like spoons, forks, things like that. It's like tables, like this very table, like it did not create itself, and because it didn't create itself, it cannot. Dude, the word is like in my mouth, and it can't designate itself its own purpose. You get me? Right. And I feel like sometimes as us, like we didn't create ourselves. You know, we didn't create ourselves, and so sometimes what we try to do is that like a table can be used for multiple purposes. And that's without a doubt, right? Somebody can eat on it, somebody can sit on it, somebody can sleep on it. There's various things that you can do on a table, but at the ultimate end, the table is meant to use so that you can eat and place food on it. And I say the same thing with a fork. People can use it to pick their teeth, to scratch their back.
They can repurpose it.
Yeah, they can repurpose it.
But the real purpose...
But its actual intended creative purpose is actually to be utilized in the way it was meant.
Yeah,
so
I
feel like that's how sometimes that we, right? That's how sometimes like our basis of our purpose is so misconstrued. The fact that we think we found our purpose because we're living out a certain way, but in reality is like, you have to understand first that if you didn't create yourself, and if no created object can give itself designate itself its own purpose, who are we to say that as well? Despite us being conscious and all that stuff, with all the more should we experience the reality of the fact that there's intended purpose to our living. You know what I mean?